The ballroom sparkled with golden lights and colorful balloons. A lavish birthday party was in full swing. But at the long table, one little girl sat alone in her wheelchair, staring at her untouched cake. Children whispered nearby, "That's the CEO's crippled daughter. Poor thing." The girl's hands trembled as she looked down. Just then, a single dad in a worn shirt walked over with his daughter. He knelt down and smiled warmly. "Can we join you?" The entire room fell silent. No one knew this simple moment would change both families forever. Let me tell you about Jack Hale. He was 38 years old, a single dad, a former soldier who had seen things most people couldn't imagine. These days, Jack worked whatever jobs he could find: construction, cleaning, manual labor that paid the bills and kept food on the table for his daughter. His most precious possession? A silver dog tag that hung around his neck. A reminder of the man he used to be. A reminder of honor and duty. But his real treasure was his daughter. Ella, 9 years old. Bright eyes. A smile that could light up the darkest room. Ella had this gift. She saw the good in everyone. She believed every person deserved kindness. "Daddy," she would say, "we can make anyone smile." And she was right. Time and time again, she proved it. On this particular evening, Jack had brought Ella to a birthday party. Not their usual scene. They had been invited by pure chance. A classmate's event at a mansion that looked like something from a movie. Jack felt out of place in his old button-down shirt. But Ella, she was thrilled. Now let me tell you about the birthday girl. Her name was Clara Lane, 10 years old, long dark hair, eyes that carried sadness too heavy for a child. Clara lived in that mansion with her father, Victor Lane. Victor was 55, a billionaire CEO. His company employed thousands. His name appeared in business magazines. His wealth could buy almost anything. Almost. 2 years ago, Clara had been in a terrible accident. She survived, but she lost the use of her legs. Since that day, Clara had lived in a wheelchair. And since that day, she had lived in loneliness. Other children didn't know how to act around her. They whispered. They stared. They kept their distance. Their parents were even worse. They looked at Clara with pity, or worse. They looked through her like she wasn't even there. Victor tried everything. The best doctors, the best therapists, the best schools. He threw money at the problem, but money couldn't buy what Clara needed most. Friends. Tonight was Clara's 10th birthday party. The mansion ballroom was decorated beautifully. Hundreds of balloons in every color. Tables loaded with food. A 3-tier cake covered in pink frosting and edible flowers. Victor had invited every child from Clara's class. He had hired entertainers, magicians, face painters, a DJ. Everything perfect, except for one thing. The children arrived. They ran around the ballroom. They laughed and played games. They grabbed cake and candy. But they avoided Clara's table. She sat there in her wheelchair, watching, always watching, never participating. A few parents noticed. They nudged their children. "Go say happy birthday to Clara." The children would walk over slowly, mumble a quick greeting, then run back to their friends as fast as possible. Clara had learned not to expect more. She sat at her table with her special birthday cake. Just her, alone. That's when Jack and Ella walked in. Ella immediately noticed Clara sitting by herself. "Daddy," she whispered, tugging Jack's sleeve. "That girl is all alone on her birthday." Jack looked. His heart broke. He recognized that loneliness, that isolation. He had seen it before in the eyes of soldiers who felt forgotten. "Come on, sweetheart," Jack said quietly. They walked across the ballroom together. Every step felt heavy. Jack could feel eyes turning toward them. He could hear the whispers starting. But Ella squeezed his hand, and they kept walking, toward the girl who needed them most. As Jack and Ella approached Clara's table, the whispers grew louder. A woman in a designer dress leaned toward her friend. Is that the janitor? What's he doing here? Another parent smirked. He thinks he belongs at this party? Their words cut through the air, loud enough for Jack to hear, loud enough to sting. But Jack kept walking. He had faced enemy fire. He had stared down death. A few snobby parents wouldn't stop him now. Ella didn't seem to notice the whispers at all. Her focus was entirely on Clara. The birthday girl looked up as they approached. Confusion crossed her face. No one had walked directly to her table all evening. Then, from across the room, a child's voice rang out. She can't even blow out candles by herself. Laughter followed. Cruel, thoughtless. The kind of laughter that stabs deeper than any knife. Clara's face crumpled. Her hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair. Her eyes filled with tears that she desperately tried to hold back. Jack saw red. Every protective instinct in his body screamed at him to turn around and confront those parents, to shame them for raising such cruel children, to defend this innocent girl who had done nothing wrong except survive an accident. But Ella was faster. She walked right up to Clara and sat down in the empty chair beside her. Hi, Ella said brightly. I'm Ella. I really like your balloons. The purple ones are my favorite. What's yours? Clara stared at her, speechless. No one had asked her about her favorite color in so long. No one had sat next to her voluntarily in even longer. Pink, Clara whispered finally. Her voice was small, fragile. Pink is beautiful, Ella said. She reached out and gently took Clara's hand. Can we be friends? The entire ballroom seemed to freeze. Parents stopped talking. Children stopped playing. Everyone was watching now. Watching this poorly dressed girl in worn shoes hold hands with the CEO's disabled daughter. Watching Jack Hale pull out a chair and sit down on Clara's other side. He looked at Clara with kind eyes. The same eyes that had comforted Ella through nightmares, through scraped knees, through every childhood fear. Can we join you? Jack asked softly. Clara nodded. She couldn't speak. The lump in her throat was too big. For the first time in 2 years, someone had asked to sit with her, not out of pity, not because a parent forced them, but because they genuinely wanted to. A man in an expensive suit stepped closer, his face twisted with disgust. Excuse me, he said loudly. I don't think you were invited to sit at the birthday girl's table. That's reserved for close friends. Jack turned slowly. His military training showed in his posture. Straight back, level gaze, quiet authority. The birthday girl just invited us, Jack said calmly. So we're sitting? The man's face turned red. Do you know who her father is? Do you have any idea? I know exactly who her father is, Jack interrupted. His voice never rose, but it carried steel. And I know that right now. What she needs is friends, not another adult making a scene at her party. The man sputtered, but he stepped back. More whispers erupted around the room. Can you believe that? He's got some nerve. Poor Clara. Now she's stuck with them. Clara heard every word. She had developed sharp ears for the cruel things people said when they thought she wasn't listening. But something was different this time. This time, she wasn't alone. Ella was showing her a small bracelet on her wrist. My daddy made this for me. He's really good at making things. Maybe he could make you one too. Clara looked at the simple beaded bracelet. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, but it was made with love. She could tell. I would like that, Clara whispered. Jack smiled. Then consider it done. What's your favorite color again? Pink? Pink and purple, Clara said, a tiny smile forming on her lips. It was small, barely there, but it was real. Across the ballroom, several parents exchanged shocked looks. The CEO's daughter was smiling. Actually smiling. One mother grabbed her daughter's arm. Maybe you should go join them, she hissed. The child shook her head. But you said not to bother the weird girl. I never said that. The mother lied quickly, but her face flushed red. At the table, Ella was chattering away. She told Clara about her school, about her favorite books, about the stray cat she and her daddy had been feeding. Clara listened, and slowly, she started talking too, about the balloons, about the cake flavor she had chosen, about the magician who was supposed to perform later. She was speaking more than she had in months. Jack sat quietly, watching his daughter work her magic. This was Ella's gift, breaking down walls with pure, uncomplicated kindness. Then Ella had an idea. You know what every birthday needs, she announced. A wish. Let's make wishes together when you blow out your candles. Clara's smile grew wider. For the first time all evening, she looked at her birthday cake with excitement instead of dread. Okay, she agreed. Together. The room was still watching, still whispering, but Clara didn't care anymore. From the back of the ballroom, a man had been watching everything unfold. Victor Lane stood perfectly still. His expensive suit, his perfectly styled hair, his expression unreadable. He had been in his study, working through emails, missing his daughter's party. Again, but his assistant had pulled him out. Sir, you need to see this. And now he was seeing it. His daughter, his Clara, the girl who hadn't smiled in 2 years. She was laughing, actually laughing, at something the poorly dressed little girl had said. Victor's breath caught in his chest. He had spent millions on therapists, psychologists, the best specialists in the world. They had all tried to bring back Clara's smile. They had all failed. And now, a random child at a birthday party had accomplished it in 5 minutes. Victor started walking toward the table. His footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Conversations died as he passed. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew his power. The parents who had been whispering suddenly looked nervous. Had they been too loud? Had he heard them mocking the janitor? Victor reached the table. Jack looked up. Their eyes met. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Victor studied Jack's face. Something familiar tugged at his memory. Those eyes, that bearing, the way he held himself with quiet dignity. Where had he seen this man before? Thank you, Victor said finally. His voice was rough with emotion. Thank you for sitting with my daughter. Jack stood and extended his hand. Jack Hale, sir. It's our pleasure. Victor shook his hand. A firm grip. A working man's hand. Daddy, Clara called out. Her voice was bright. Alive. Daddy, come meet my new friends. Victor's eyes filled with tears. He couldn't remember the last time Clara had sounded so happy. He pulled up a chair and sat down. Ella immediately started telling him about the bracelet idea, about the purple and pink beads, about how her daddy could make anything. Victor listened, but his attention kept drifting back to Jack. That face, those eyes. Where did they know each other from? Have we met before? Victor asked suddenly. Jack hesitated. It's been a long time, sir. Tell me. Jack glanced at the girls. They were absorbed in their own conversation. He turned back to Victor. 15 years ago, Jack said quietly. Afghanistan. I was part of a military convoy security detail. Victor's face went pale. We were protecting a supply route, Jack continued. Your company had contracted with the Department of Defense, critical equipment being transported to a forward base. The memory came flooding back to Victor. He had been younger then, still building his empire. He had personally overseen that contract. It was worth billions. The ambush, Victor whispered. Jack nodded. 3 vehicles, explosives on the road, gunfire from both sides. We lost 2 men that day. Victor remembered the reports, the headlines, the investigation. But what he remembered most was the after-action report. A single sergeant had held the line, had dragged wounded soldiers to safety, had saved the entire convoy and protected millions of dollars in equipment. That sergeant had been awarded a medal. Victor had read his name. "Jack Hale," Victor breathed. "You're that sergeant?" "Yes, sir." The room seemed to tilt. This man in the worn shirt who worked manual labor jobs, this single father who had just walked across a ballroom to sit with a lonely child. He was a hero. He had saved Victor's contract, his company, possibly his entire future. And Victor had never known, had never thanked him properly, had never even seen his face, until tonight. "Why didn't you say anything?" Victor demanded. "When you arrived, when you walked through my door, why didn't you tell me who you were?" Jack looked puzzled. "Sir, I'm just a dad who brought his daughter to a birthday party. What happened 15 years ago has nothing to do with tonight." "Everything," Victor said, his voice rising. "It has everything to do with tonight. You saved my life's work. You saved my men. You saved—" He stopped. He looked at Clara. She was glowing, genuinely glowing with happiness. "You saved my daughter," Victor finished quietly. "Not 15 years ago. Tonight. You saved her tonight." Jack shook his head. "I didn't do anything, sir. I just sat down." "You did everything," Victor insisted. His voice cracked. "Do you know how many birthdays she sat alone? How many parties where no one would talk to her? How many nights she's cried herself to sleep because she has no friends?" Tears were streaming down Victor's face now. He didn't care who saw. "I have billions of dollars," he continued. "I can buy anything in the world. But I couldn't buy what you just gave her. I couldn't buy a single moment of genuine happiness." Clara noticed her father crying. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Victor wiped his eyes quickly. He reached out and took his daughter's hand. "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart," he said, his voice shaking. "Everything is perfect. This is perfect." Clara smiled at him, that beautiful smile he had missed so much. Then she said something that broke his heart and healed it at the same time. "This is my best birthday ever. Daddy." Victor looked at her. "Because of the decorations? The cake?" Clara shook her head. "Because they sat with me," she said simply, looking at Jack and Ella. "Not because you told them to, not because they felt sorry for me, because they wanted to." She squeezed Ella's hand. "That's the best present anyone ever gave me." Victor couldn't speak. The lump in his throat was too big. Jack placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sir, every child deserves to be seen, to be valued. Your daughter is remarkable. Anyone who takes the time to know her would see that." Victor nodded. He couldn't find words. Around them, the ballroom had gone completely silent. Every parent, every child, every server and entertainer. Everyone had heard. Everyone had witnessed the CEO of a billion-dollar empire break down in tears because a janitor showed his daughter basic human kindness. Some of the parents who had whispered earlier looked ashamed. Some looked angry at being shown up. But most looked thoughtful, uncomfortable, forced to confront their own prejudices. One mother stepped forward hesitantly. "Mr. Lane, I—" Victor held up a hand. "Not now," he said firmly. "Right now, I'm celebrating my daughter's birthday with her friends." He emphasized the word friends while looking directly at Jack and Ella. The mother stepped back, her face red. Victor turned his full attention to the table, to his daughter, to the two people who had given her something priceless. "Now," he said, wiping his eyes one final time, "I believe someone mentioned making wishes when we blow out the candles." Clara's face lit up. "Yes, all together." The shift in the room was immediate. Children who had been avoiding Clara all evening suddenly became interested. A little boy walked over nervously. Can I sit here too?" Clara looked at Ella, who nodded encouragingly. "Yes," Clara said. "There's room." More children approached. Shyly at first, then with more confidence. Within minutes, Clara's table had gone from empty to full. Kids were chattering, laughing, asking Clara about her wheelchair, about the decorations, about the cake, not with pity, with genuine curiosity, with friendship. The ice had been broken. All it took was one brave girl and her father showing everyone else how easy it was to be kind. But not everyone was happy about the change. The man in the expensive suit who had confronted Jack earlier approached Victor. "Lane," he said loudly, "I need to speak with you about—" "Leave," Victor said without looking at him. The man blinked. "Excuse me? Leave my house," Victor repeated. His voice was ice cold. "Now. You can't be serious. Because of that janitor?" Victor stood up slowly. His full CEO presence radiated outward. "That janitor is a war hero," he said clearly. Everyone in the room could hear. "He served our country with honor. He saved lives, including mine. And tonight, he showed more character than you've displayed in your entire life." The man's face turned purple. "I was invited, and now you're uninvited," Victor interrupted. "You mocked a child on her birthday. You insulted a guest in my home. You don't belong here." Security was already approaching. The man sputtered. His wife grabbed his arm, mortified. They were escorted out. A few other parents who had been particularly cruel suddenly decided it was time to leave as well. Victor didn't stop them. Good riddance. The atmosphere in the ballroom changed completely. Parents who remained seemed to relax, to soften. Several approached Victor to apologize for their behavior. He accepted their apologies, but he made sure they understood. "My daughter deserves respect," he told each one. "Not pity, not avoidance. Respect. If you can't give her that, don't come back." Meanwhile, at the table, magic was happening. The children had convinced Clara to show them how her wheelchair worked. She was demonstrating the controls, clearly proud. One girl asked if she could try sitting in it. Clara hesitated. That was her private space, her burden. But Ella encouraged her. "It's okay. Show them it's just a chair. A cool chair with wheels." So Clara let her. The children took turns. They rolled around carefully. They asked questions. The wheelchair became demystified. Just another part of Clara, not something scary or shameful. Then it was time for cake. Clara's special 3-tier masterpiece was rolled to the center of the table. 10 candles flickered on top. Victor stood behind his daughter, his hands on her shoulders. Jack and Ella stood on one side. The other children gathered around. Everyone started singing. "Happy birthday to you." Clara's eyes shone with tears, but happy tears this time. When the song ended, Ella leaned close. "Ready to make our wishes?" Clara nodded. "On 3, Ella announced. 1, 2, 3. Clara blew with all her might. Ella helped. Together, they extinguished every single candle. The room erupted in applause. Real applause. Genuine celebration. Clara laughed, pure joy radiating from her face. Victor bent down and kissed the top of her head. "Best birthday ever?" he whispered. "Best birthday ever," Clara confirmed. Ella threw her arms around Clara in a hug, and Clara hugged her back fiercely. The entire room watched with tears in their eyes. This was what childhood should be. This was what every party should feel like. This was love. As the party wound down, Victor asked to speak with Jack privately. They stepped into his study, dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with awards and certificates. Victor poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Jack. "I've spent millions on doctors," Victor said quietly. "Therapists, specialists from around the world, all trying to help Clara heal, to help her adjust, to bring back her smile." He took a sip. "But you gave her healing in a single sentence." Jack shook his head. "I didn't do anything special, sir." "You asked if you could join her," Victor said. "Do you know how powerful that was? You gave her choice. You gave her dignity. You treated her like a person, not a problem to be solved. He set down his glass. All she needed was someone to sit with her, he continued. And in 15 years, from Afghanistan to this ballroom, you've been saving me. Saving what matters most. Jack met his eyes. No child should celebrate alone, sir. No one should feel invisible on their birthday. Victor extended his hand again. Thank you, Jack, for your service, for tonight, for everything. They shook hands, a connection between two fathers, two men who understood what really mattered. Outside the study, Ella was saying goodbye to Clara. She pulled out a small folded piece of paper from her pocket. I made this for you, Ella said shyly. Clara unfolded it carefully. It was a crayon drawing. 3 people standing together around a birthday cake. Purple and pink balloons floating above them. At the bottom, in careful letters, best friends forever. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She clutched the drawing to her chest like it was made of gold. Best gift ever, she whispered. Then she hugged Ella as tight as she could. Can you come visit me again? Clara asked desperately. Every week, Ella promised. If your dad says it's okay. Victor appeared in the doorway. It's more than okay. It's required. Both girls squealed with happiness. As Jack and Ella prepared to leave, Clara grabbed Jack's hand. Mr. Hale? She said softly. Yes, sweetheart? Thank you for asking if you could join me. Jack knelt down to her level. Thank you for saying yes. He squeezed her hand gently. Then he and Ella walked out into the night. Victor stood with Clara on the mansion steps, watching them go. Clara waved until their car disappeared. Then she looked up at her father. Daddy, I made a wish when I blew out my candles. What did you wish for? Victor asked. Friends, Clara said simply. And it already came true. Victor pulled her close, his eyes wet, inside his head. Jack's words echoed. I thought honor was medals and battles. But tonight I learned that honor is pulling up a chair for someone who's been left behind. Jack sat in his old car, Ella already asleep in the back seat. He touched his silver dog tag. Some missions are won with weapons, others are won with kindness. Tonight, he had fought the most important battle of all, and everyone had won. Subscribe if you believe no child deserves to be left out.